The Nigerian pilot leads with a screaming headline, "We know those behind banditry." Solid Mineral Minister reiterates earlier statement, insists powerful Nigerians behind banditry, other crimes. Says criminals have access to heavy funding, arms from sponsors. Adds he has received threats since he first made the statement, but is undaunted. Reveals that based on intelligence reports, there is serious evidence along strata of society. And of course, you want to take a look at the headline running just below that. Plateau sacked 16 PDP lawmakers, vow to resume legislative duties today. That's on page 5.
Well, let's see Daily Sunrise, and this one is still within security. Obi Bodejudge Middle Belt Forum raised alarm, say kidnapping banditry have worsened, and that's on page 6. But you also want to look at that story. Supreme Court judgment, Magistrates Court denies 38 protesting women bail in Nasarawa, on page 4.
This Nigeria says court voids Governor Fubara's 800 billion naira budget passed by 5 assembly members. That's on page 4. Justice Omotosho says governor clearly exceeded his powers. He should stop further interference in the affairs of the Rivers State House of Assembly under Speaker Amaewule.
And then the Nigerian Express still looks at that Rivers 800 billion naira 2024 budget illegal coming from the court. But we also want to look at that story there. Crisis looms in Plateau as sacked lawmakers vow to return to Assembly Tuesday.
The Daily Asset says how police extortion, subsidy removal, insecurity push prices of foodstuff. Culpable agencies include police, NCS, NIS, NSCDC. And the FCT administration confirms 2 cases of Lassa fever in Abuja. Patients in Buhari General Hospital and University Teaching Hospital in Gwagwalada warns residents against exposing food to rodents.
And People's Daily is looking at van CBN relocation from Abuja to Lagos. We will address your concerns. Northern senators tell constituents. Youth group urges Tinubu to reverse decision, and that's on page 5. Insecurity, NSCDC gets drones, 100 communication gadgets on page 5 as well.
To the Daily Times now, that's the oldest of all the papers we're looking at this morning. Northern senators reject allocations in 2024 budget. Relocation of FAN CBN units. And if you just look at the picture story, you see the Super Eagles celebrating players there after beating Guinea-Bissau on Monday to qualify for the round of 16 in the ongoing African Cup of Nations.
And the leadership is looking at the Supreme Court verdict. Anxiety has sacked Plateau lawmakers vow to resume. Lawyers warn, says it's a dangerous and lawless path to take. We will use all options to reclaim their mandate, and that's PDP speaking there. But you also want to look at that story, 3,478 repentant terrorists reintegrated in 7 years, CBS speaks.
The Daily Trust has quite a number of headlines there that are interesting. And for me, I'm looking at how we are living with threats of bandits, FCT, Niger communities. And then you look at, that's on page 2. You look further to the left side of the paper. Tinubu pushes for Kwankwaso Ganduje reconciliation. APC chair meets Kano stakeholders on Thursday. Kano is a key state for the APC. Absolutely.
And the Guardian now looks at it, more glaringly. Varsity hospitals in darkness as the federal government $105 million power project flops. And that's on page 6. You can see the EEP phase 1 target there in that graphical representation. And then you also want to look at kidnapping, Tinubu case, emergency procurement of tracking equipment on page 3.
The Blueprint leads with the story. Tinubu to Nigerians, size of my cabinet to avert a future of non-performance and promises to sustain anti-graft fight, be fair to all. President showing capacity to address nation's challenges. That's coming from the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN.
And the New Telegraph looks at 28.7 trillion naira 2024 budget skewed against North. Senators from region kick against relocation of some federal agencies to Lagos. Northern youths vow to resist move, and that's on page 2. You also have to look at that story. Canada to reduce admission slots for Nigerian students. Other students will access loans without human intervention, and that's federal government on page 3 and 31 of the New Telegraph.
The Nigerian Tribune leads with the story of the Plateau State Assembly. Crisis looms in Plateau State. Sacked 16 lawmakers move to resume legislative duties. Their threat, invitation to anarchy, attributed to the APC. That's on page 15 of the Nigerian Tribune. And further down, right under that headline, you will see the governor of Oyo State, the picture story, Seyi Makinde, presenting the report of the Bodija explosion to President Bola Tinubu in Abuja on Monday.
Business day, Nigerians further squeezed as food prices rise. And you also see questions trail NNPC $3.3 billion crude for cash loan, and credit to government 6 times lower on ways and means debt conversion. And of course, you see that story on security held top agendas. Blinken meets Tinubu tomorrow on page 29. 2 African countries with highest inflation rates in 10 African countries with highest inflation rates in 2023, and that's on page 29. So let's come to our reviewers this morning. Let's start with you, Majid. The papers this morning go from knowing who is behind insecurity. Of course, we see what's happening in the Plateau State Assembly, where lawmakers are insisting on resuming to, of course, a call for review on the issues on bandits by some of the leaders, but the judge will be and others. But where would you like to look at this critically? I'm sure you would want to take a pick.
I think the most pressing issue for us today is insecurity, in addition to, of course, economic dislocation of most Nigerians. And I think the kidnapping epidemic has hit hard and has made a landfall even in the Federal Capital Territory. So Abuja is like a city under siege now. I'm sure most people go back home earlier than usual because of the spate of kidnapping in this city. And if the Federal Capital Territory is under siege, you begin to wonder what's happening to people in the Northwest, parts of North Central, and across the country generally. So insecurity is something that all focus must be on for now, in order to get government, whose responsibility it is to fix this problem, to get it fixed, and live up to its mandate of providing security and welfare for the citizens. And so it's something that we need to discuss extensively. Banditry is nothing new. It's been there. And sometimes when I hear, the kind of claims that is being made by the Minister of Solid Minerals, I begin to wonder, if they are aware, if they have this information at their disposal, why are they telling us? Am I the one to act on this intelligence? If you claim to know those that are behind it, the powerful individual behind it, why have you not arrested and prosecuted them? Or are they bigger than the state? And if they are bigger than the state, then let us allow people to resort to self-help. Because when you scream out loud like this, as though you are helpless, as government, don't forget that when the minister speaks, that is the president speaking. Because the minister exercises the authority
on behalf of the president.
On behalf of the president. This is a presidential system. This is not a parliamentary system, where ministers can actually speak for themselves and take responsibility for their actions. In this system, it's collective. And so, I do not understand why government will be saying that it has intelligence about people that are responsible for something, and they're not acting on it. And you're not seeing arrests, you're not seeing prosecutions. Even when the United Arab Emirates sent us a list of
those,
that are sponsoring terrorism, we've not
acted on it either.
We don't even know who they are, or as we speak. Nigeria is the only country where you have large-scale crime that is being committed, and nobody can tell exactly who's committing those crimes. So rather than, speak out in this manner, government should be acting on the information it says it has.
Indeed, and I think also in terms of intelligence and looking at places where people do not even think, we understand that even several unlawful hawkers on the street could also be mercenaries, intelligence, and actually harboring illicit guns.
Let me say this. Let me just say this before Doctor intervenes. If you expect a country like Nigeria, where electoral banditry is rife, it's the order of the day, it underlines our electoral processes, which in turn enthrones administrative bandits across all tiers of government and in all arms of government. If you expect such a country not to produce bandits in the forest and on the highways, then we are joking. This is a symptomatic effect of acute failure of leadership, and that is what must be addressed. What is the government doing? Sometimes they go around and tell us that hawkers are responsible for security challenges, people living in shanties for security challenges, and I'm saying no. The biggest culprits are those who are in government that have transformed themselves into administrative bandits, that are looting our common patrimony to the extent that they are no longer able to provide welfare and security and comprehensive good governance for the people. Those are the biggest culprits in the security challenges we are facing today. And so let us stop blaming those that are scrambling to survive, who are made hoodlums because of your own failure of leadership. We should stop focusing on them. They are not the real problems. The real problems are those in government that are failing to live up to their expectations as leaders of the people.
Dr. Mahu,
Yeah.
Adora talked about one word, intelligence. And that's what the minister talked about in this headline. We know those behind banditry. And like Majid said, if you know them,
What are you doing about
what are you
it?
doing about it? What are we doing with the intel that we have?
If it shows, from the statement of the minister, it shows that there are intelligence as in respect of those who are responsible for most of the criminalities happening across the country. And I normally say this, you know, as the box still stops on the decks of Mr. President, and as the president of a country, the first thing you get every morning when you wake up is a security report on your decks, giving you an idea of what is happening all over the country, including those that are responsible for whatever crisis or criminality may be going on in any part of the country. So when the Minister of Solid Minerals spoke like he has spoken, he is speaking on behalf of the government in which he is a part of. We have not, we've been here before. When he said it just gives you a sense of deja vu. Here we are again. We've seen this before during the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. We've seen it, even a foreign country, the United Arab Emirates, has helped us to identify and send a security report back to the federal government on most of the people responsible or sponsors of insurgents in our country. Criminality thrives when crime is not punished. And like Mojid raised the fundamental question, is it that these people are bigger than the state? Where you have a country where you have individuals become so big and above the law, it's a very big problem. We no longer have a country. We may as well say, tell those people who are richer than the state, more powerful than the state, who are holding the state to ransom, to come and take over the realm of government. If government itself feels that it's so powerless that it cannot act against these individuals. Democracy. And to me, when I look at it all, it comes down to one thing, the state of our democracy. Are we really operating a democracy in the true sense of a democracy where people power prevail? Is it an autocracy, or some individuals, you know, have seizing power and they are using it for themselves against the general will of the Nigerian people? That's what we should begin to question. And in a way, you link it to what happened in Plateau State yesterday, where you have three arms of government. In a democracy, you have three arms of government: the executive, the legislature, and of course the judiciary. The judiciary, the key role of the judiciary, as far as I'm concerned, is to remedy injury. If I feel, that's why we say the judiciary is the last hope of all of us, not just the common man, no matter how common you are, you know, is the last hope to give you that sense of remedy. If the executive has failed you, the legislature has failed you, the judiciary is supposed to step in to ameliorate to give you a sense of justice. But what happens when the judiciary itself becomes culpable in causing more harm to the body politics? Where do you now go to seek remedy? Because from what the Plateau State House of Assembly members are trying to do, it will only, they are seeking self-help.
You call them members.
Sorry, legislators.
Are they members of the because I
get where you are going to. But the sacked
the Court of Appeal has nullified their elections.
But they are saying, well, consequentially, although it's unknown in law, they are saying
they will resume.
Consequential effect of
the ruling of the Supreme
Court means that they were wrongly removed. So how the question is, how do you provide remedy for that wrong that has that injustice, which even the Supreme Court itself spoke about, that case should not have been adjudicated upon at all. So you now find out that as a country, we have a very big problem in our hands. And it can precipitate a state of anarchy. A state of anarchy.
Of course, they said there will be anxiety.
Or what we call a Hobbesian state, where life is nasty, short, and brutish, where all of us, we have to resort to self-help. With the levity and the state itself cannot help us. That is what is playing out in Plateau. Is that what we want?
And then, of course, in Rivers, court voids Governor Fubara's 800 billion naira budget passed by 5 assembly members. So we're still back to the judiciary.